Good morning. I'm going to read my letter to the fictional editor that never responded to me. I sent it to quite a few places and news outlets. I wanted to clarify, yesterday I said I was involved with Orange County 6 times. That's incorrect. I've been involved with Orange County 5 times, Riverside County 1 time. And I just wanted to say that now, today, August 7th, 2016, I'm in a good place. I'm at peace. I'm comfortable. I'm not depressed. My anxiety's, I'm definitely way better than I was at the time I wrote this letter, and the past few months that I had been struggling since the first call that I received February 11th this past year. The first recent call. Dear editor, I'm a victim of a crime that happened 35 years ago. I was recently called to testify to help keep the sexual predator that offended against me, who was put under civil commitment, to remain under civil commitment. I have always been a willing part of the justice system and grateful that I live in a country where there is a reasonable age of consent and laws and individuals that attempt to keep me and others safe to enact justice. So because of my deeply held beliefs of right and wrong and my moral obligation to do my part for the justice system, I am very sad to have to write this letter. I was 11 to 13 years old when this systematic sexual abuse happened to me by these perpetrators. This now sexually violent predator, he always was, but he's categorized as that now, was given access to me by my parents. I come from a terrible home, and the sexually violent predator knew and relished in that, as they all do. My home was found unfit, but I was returned to it by the system, only to become a victim again and again. Another perpetrator got busted after I got back home, and I was involved in another case as the victim. This was a case in another county. Each time I was the official victim as a child, I was not offered therapy or proper protection, even though the police report lists my home as unfit. 3 cases under the age of 18. I was not given therapy. I was briefly put into a shelter home twice and a foster home briefly, and returned home not protected, etc., etc. When I turned 18, I found my own way out of perpetual victimhood. That was my childhood, by the grace of God. At about age 23, I was contacted by the Orange County District Attorney's Office asking me if I would testify on behalf of his newest victim. By this point in my life, I had found therapy on my own, was a new mother, married, and just barely coming to terms with what my childhood was, how it impacted me, and how to start to heal from it. Nonetheless, I didn't hesitate to consent to helping Orange County convict this predator. It ended up that they decided I wasn't needed, and they called me back and told me that. Was I asked at that time how I was doing? No. Was I asked how their contacting affected me? No. Was I asked if I was okay? No. Was any help attempted or offered to me? No. I hope you can start to see a pattern here. I am grateful that the law came to help me, but then the law let me down again and again. It's as if they, the OC professionals, do not think that such a call and request and subsequent lack of apparent concern should have any effect on me or my family, my husband or child. Affect the mom, affect everyone, right? It's kind of hard when you get triggered into depression, PTSD, to just go on with a normal life and your family's A-okay. No, it doesn't work like that. I was so young, re-traumatized, and unable to sort anything out, but I just went on with my life in the best possible way I knew how to. But trust me, I was affected by the call and lack of concern for my well-being. After about 10 years after that, I was living in another Southern California county, and I ran into this sexually violent predator's partner, a predator in their own right. In shock, I went to the local sheriff's station to see where this person might reside. At that time, Megan's Law information, if you're not familiar with Megan's Law, look it up, was only accessible at sheriff stations and no addresses were given. But I wanted to know if these perps were my neighbors, at least by zip code. I knew that this SVP would be near the other perp. They were a team. I discovered that this SVP had been paroled to the town I just moved from, and it was a small town by Southern California standards. I went into shock. I'm not sure how long he was there while I was there. My second child was still playing in the soccer league based out of that town. When I attempted to do a Megan's Law notification, the local police were very annoyed by my desire to notify the non-Orange County neighborhood and didn't allow me to notify the neighborhood. They just kept stalling me. And they weren't nice about it, okay? I believe that was my right to notify the neighborhood. I was trying to protect them too. And but it's not unusual for a victim to be denied their rights in California. That's my experience anyway. After the parole office got wind that I wanted to get this SVP kicked out of the neighborhood, it was a low socioeconomically disadvantaged neighborhood. Everybody was much more vulnerable in that neighborhood. Anyway, I got a call chastising me for not letting me know that I was in the local area. They said, he isn't allowed within 25 miles of you. But how would I have known that? I was never, and I still have never been notified of my victim rights. I've had to look all those up myself. I didn't know any of what they told me, and I certainly didn't deserve the mistreatment that they dumped on me, the insensitivity. I didn't know any of what they told me, and I certainly didn't deserve the mistreatment. I just repeated myself. And even though I'm grateful that it was after that he was soon committed to civil commitment, and I complied with the OCDA's office request to be available to testify if needed, I was not offered help. Again, no concern for my well-being, and I was not treated with dignity. I was left in an emotional clump again, a willing victim witness that is only useful to OC when they deem me to be useful. Each time this occurs, the wound of the sexual abuse is reopened, and the wound of the abandonment and the indifference of the OC professionals is reopened. Again, I was left alone with my husband and now I had 3 children, to pick up the pieces of my life with no resources offered, no kind words, no follow-up or concern. Well, his parole officer's supervisor did suggest I get therapy. Not in a very supportive way, you know what I mean? February 11th of this year, 2016, about 12 to 14 years after this SVP civil commitment, I was called, out of the blue, of course, by the OCDA's office asking me if I would testify to help keep him in civil commitment. I live in a completely different place, different phone number, but the OCDA's office found me. My initial reaction was, of course I will help. It's my moral obligation to help protect others. Within a day of receiving and hearing the initial call on my voicemail and then speaking with the investigator, I was in crisis. All of my negative treatment and experience from the OCDA's office and other professionals involved in the system came back to me, along with the looming terror of having to face the SVP for the first time in 35 years. So although I have a career and a family and in my 40s now, I was reduced to an emotional clump again. This time, though, my income is necessary for my family. Before I was a stay-at-home mom. This time, I was also more aware of the pattern of the abuse from the OCDA's office and the impact that the sexual abuse and my overall childhood had on me. Excuse me. But I was in a place where I was managing my life, fulfilling goals, and functioning. The call came back, and I was in full PTSD symptoms. That really threw me, by the way. Just really threw me. This time, I immediately reached out to mental health professionals. I know I need therapy. I get therapy. I provide therapy. Therapy is a good thing. Not against it at all, as long as it's done right. So I immediately reached out to mental health professionals for help. I knew I needed it. I attempted to tell the OCDA's office of my symptoms and fears and bad experiences that I had had in the past with OCDA, but no one asked me any questions or acknowledged that they could see why this would be painful for me, very painful for me. Within 2 weeks, I went on medical leave from my job. I decompensated. I acted unprofessionally with my boss. Anyway, I was considering not living. I became incapable of doing my work. I found that I was unable to stop crying for long periods of time. These were just some of my symptoms. By the time the OC Deputy District Attorney interviewed me, along with the investigator, I was on medical leave, and I told them that I was. They did not follow up with questions as to how I was. I believe I was only a testimony to them. The victim advocate, the first time I ever had one, by the way, sent me a quick email suggesting to find a local therapist that specializes in this type of crime. That was it. I didn't know how to advocate for myself at that time because, again, I was in an emotional clump, and my family also no longer had my income, adding significant stress on me and my husband. I learned later, after I searched on my own, that I should have been offered a support person, during the interview of the sexual abuse I endured, which I talked to them for 90 minutes, and should have been offered to have a victim advocate present at that interview. No one told me that. The victim advocate never informed me of my rights, and the investigator never informed me of my rights. Nobody informed me of my rights. After I was made to feel lucky that Orange County District Attorney Office was going to help me with my transportation for my husband as well as myself. We live kind of far from Orange County now. And my increasing lack of trust and negative feelings towards OCDA, I still went out to OC California to testify. I felt it was something I had to do. I mean, they asked me to please help testify against him to protect others. I just couldn't say no. Although at this point, if I had to redo it again, I probably would. Yet I'm going to make this a positive. So it is what it is now, right? But let me just say, I was a mess. I really felt like I ruined my life. But they made me feel grateful that they approved my husband's flight. Like they were going to expect me to go out alone to testify. Okay. So even though I felt like my life was ruined, I went out there. And even though I was without an income for a month, and all the professionals knew that, when I asked for a food voucher, I was told by another investigator that it wasn't worth that much, and the OCDA office already approved your husband's flight, and we should be grateful for that. We honestly didn't know how we would eat well in OC until the day before, but OC didn't care, did they? Nonetheless, we went out, me feeling extreme PTSD symptoms. I felt like my life was over. I felt I ruined my career and that all was lost for me, scraping to hold on to hope. I was going to testify because it was the right thing. Only after I testified and I did finally feel some compassion from the investigator in person and some from the victim advocate in person, I did feel that this could be turned into a positive. I was part of a team. I was going to have a positive experience this time, finally. That lasted for a week and a half. I asked the investigator to please tell me when deliberations would be, and he said he would. Just imagine going through all of these court experiences as the victim and potential witness, and finally having, an opportunity to hear deliberations or whatever. I mean, I imagine, appreciate how emotional this might be. And so I just asked him to let me know when deliberations would be so that I could be in a safe place. Either way the verdicts went. And he said he would do that. I was expecting that the call from Orange County to be the next call to be that one. So I went back to work and totally trusted the next call would be from him to me, telling me when deliberations were. And then I could go home and be in a safe environment and prepared for whatever outcome. The next call I got was from the victim advocate, who I did not feel very connected to, like I did the investigator. And I was expecting him to tell me the verdicts, but she did. In the middle of my workday, almost an hour from home, I got that call. Although I'm very happy to report the SVP is staying under civil commitment, I was crushed that I was not told when deliberations were. Another betrayal from OCDA professionals. It just is. I had to cut my day short, drove home through tears, and cried in my closet for an hour and a half. Just remember, we regress emotionally, okay? I have tried to explain my situation to OCDA and victim witness advocates, and no one ever looked at me, understood me, cared about me other than in the moment of my testimony. I finally contacted the investigator after talking with my supervisor and therapist, asking him why he didn't tell me. Why didn't he contact me? How much that hurt for me. He asked me not to contact him anymore. I was crushed. My happy and hopeful and long-awaited positive experience with OCDA was just ripped away again. Who was on my side? Were they? Are they? Why no contact? I attempted to explain I was in extreme distress. I was the victim, not the professional. These are the professionals that work in the sexual assault unit of the Orange County District Attorney's Office. Where's their training? Where's their compassion? I know they're stressed out, but that can be reduced if there's proper training and understanding. Anyway, I was told before I testified from the victim advocate that I could get my therapy paid for by victim witness. I asked about lost wages reimbursed. She said no, didn't think that could happen. Then I read the victim application form and lost wages is an option. Then I was told yes, it could happen. Then blah, 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 back and forth. Okay, let's just say as of today, August 7th, 2016, no therapy and no lost wages have been reimbursed. So after the investigator crushed me, that's how it felt. I started a round of calls to supervisors in all the departments and attempted to offer help to improve the system, and I was expressing myself emotionally. I have specific professional and personal insight on how to help improve the system. I figured give it a shot, right? Something good had to come from this. I hoped at least some new training, something positive could come from this. Apparently that is not possible for me to help other victims and help them help themselves there at OC. But I was told by a victim witness supervisor I could get an emergency payment for rent. And she sounded more hesitant about lost wages and therapy, but also said it could happen. And even though she and the original advocate and investigator supervisor and the commander and the deputy district attorney supervisor have all heard my story and complaint in tears repeatedly, I still have not received one penny as of this writing, nor helped to maneuver the system to get the funding. At the time I wrote this, it was 88 days since the first call from OCDA and 51 days since testifying and 72 days since I had gone on medical leave. Not very emergency responded, right? No one responded quickly as you would think in an emergency. So no therapy paid for, no lost wages, no emergency rent payment provided. I have had an emergency rent payment now. That was a few months after all of this. But therapy, that's all up to me. And again, lost wages, I just got a letter prompting all of this video thing saying, no, I'm not. But I'm going to share all that with you guys later. I keep getting letters from victim witness people, form letters explaining the crime happened so long ago, it's not likely I can get any compensation. Is a victim advocate calling me? No. Has anyone offered to help fill out forms? No. And I've asked for help. Maybe I hurt her feelings when I expressed how sad and upset I was when I found out after the fact that I could have attended the closing statements and verdict being read. No one told me about that. I am the victim, a victim under extreme duress, which, by the way, when I told her how upset I was about that, she tried to place blame elsewhere. I'm the victim. I'm the one under extreme duress. I'm a victim of extreme and prolonged crime and extreme and prolonged re-victimization from the OCDA's office, which nobody's taking any responsibility about. I would think that professionals would be better trained by now to deal with victims like me. Instead, the California Victim Witness Office official belief is that since the crime occurred 35 years ago, I do not warrant any help. But they call me when they want help. And they want to keep him in because he damages people for such a long period of time. I don't figure that one out. And they obviously don't feel I warrant any compassion. I think they think I'm crazy. Do you know what it costs to house a SVP per year? I read $150,000 a year. It's like really $180,000. He gets free therapy, food, housing, recreation. What do I get? I get a please don't contact me from the investigator. Because why? Was I too emotional for him? For the OCDA? For mental health professionals in the victim witness office? Why are you guys in the field? I even tried to help out during the whole process. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. Can I tell you about brain states? You know. Anyway, I contacted a kind attorney. Thank you, Charles. He explained California Penal Code 679 to me in Section 42 USC 1983 in Civil Rights Law and found that failure to train is a viable reason to sue a government entity. They have, if you guys look this up, I really do have a case. But I guess that's over and done with now. Didn't ever happen. So we'll go a different route. Unfortunately, I don't have any means to pay for an attorney. I'm still trying to make up for the month's lost wages and the more intense therapy costs I've had to endure. I wish I had the money because I would bring up a case immediately. One reason is I alone deserve justice. I do. Me and little Lisa and teenage Lisa, we deserve justice. I am so sad. These are my experiences and simultaneously grateful that at least some of the law tries to protect me. It's so confusing, isn't it? Lost my place, sorry. But that does not justify mistreatment from OCDA professionals. California professionals and ignorance in the Victim Witness Office on all levels of the California government. It's probably nationwide, worldwide. But I also really want something positive to come from all of this. I want the victims to receive better treatment, and I want the professionals to have better tools to help them deal with severely traumatized sexual assault victims even 35 years after the crime, and to help them with their jobs. Anyway, I'll go into that in another video. I wonder how the Victim Witness Office can hold such archaic views and positions. How do they not know that trauma can be re-triggered and a person re-traumatized and affected even 35 years later? Or do they know and don't want to pay? Step by step of this last interaction, I found flaw after flaw in how it was dealt with. I informed them of my rights and how they were not in compliance. I still haven't got a copy from them to me of my victim rights. I pretty much get the feeling they hope I will go away, get over it, move on, and find peace is some of the language I've heard. But you know, I didn't hear from the investigator after I begged him to end this on a positive note. I begged him. I didn't hear him say, sorry, my bad, I apologize, please forgive me, I wish I didn't forget, etc., etc. No language like that. I would have accepted that. I really would have accepted that. That would have caused healing for me. I could have moved on, found peace, and got over it. Had he and the victim advocate not been more interested in themselves or my testimony than in the victims they serve. Look, I know it's hard. I feel bad for the investigator. I know that he has a stressful career and position, but it could have been different. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll have a conversation. He was very supportive while I was there. That was greatly appreciated. And then it was gone, ripped away. Anyway, I call this a lack of training. I believe I have a case. I believe they could do better. If they knew how to do better, I have to believe that. OC has turned down my offer of help to help them achieve these goals. I want change and I want justice, but I would find a lot of peace to know that corrections and trainings have been made so no other victim is ever treated the way that I am being treated right now. And I still have to go to work, pay for therapy, make up the rent, and the SVP gets free therapy. You think he's really using it? Rent, doesn't have to go to work at $180,000 a year on taxpayer money. $180,000 a year. Initially, I was led to believe that it would be another 10 years before he could get out again. Then I was told 5. Then I was told I'm not sure. And then I was recently told probably a year. A year? A year more? At what cost to me? Really? They still haven't told me when they knew that. So much information isn't shared with me. I've had to beg for every bit of information I've received. Beg. Seriously. OCDA office wants me to go away. And I'll tell you more about that. My attempts at contacting the district attorney himself. They sure aren't calling me, checking up on me. Not the advocates either. But I feel it is my moral obligation to bring a lawsuit if there is an attorney that can offer services pro bono. I don't get a court-appointed one like the SVP does. But I can't do that. If I can't do that, somehow I still want to bring and encourage change to the system and how it treats its victims who are asked to give so much again and again. Thank you.